Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Still Learning podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. I'm really excited and also a little bit nervous to get into this episode, but I also feel like this episode right here is one for like empowerment, encouragement, just really walking confidently and in the reassurance of who God has called you to be, and to no longer allow the narratives of others or of the world to define you, about learning to live set apart and no longer living in conformity. So I'm really excited to kind of dive into this with you guys in this episode, and I really hope you enjoy it. Hey guys, so let's get into this episode. And this episode for me is living life unapologetically. This honestly stems from a recent epiphany I had, you guys, in these last couple of days, and reflecting and in talking with God. I feel like this epiphany that I recently have come to is actually a branch of a really more vulnerable and emotional moment I had about 2 months ago with God. And so I'm really excited to talk about that here with you guys and bring that to the table here, because really I've just been talking about it with honestly anyone who would listen. Any of my friends, recently been catching up with some of my friends I haven't seen in a while. And I've just been telling them, guys, I just had this epiphany and you need to hear it because I genuinely believe it is going to change my life. And that might sound really dramatic. And it's like, Fortune, how serious could this epiphany be? But I'm telling you guys, well, actually, for me, it was life-changing, and I hope maybe it'll be life-changing for you too. So I really want to get into this and talk about what it means, what it looks like, what I'm learning in terms of how to start living life unapologetically. So it looks like I'm going to have to take us back a couple months ago for you guys to understand how this recent epiphany I've had is actually a branch off of something very vulnerable that happened. And it's not necessarily actually, no, it is vulnerable. Sorry, I was about to say it wasn't, but it was a vulnerable moment. I was just crying like everyone does. I actually hate crying, but that's a discussion for another day. That's something to unpack another day. But I was having a very emotional conversation with God. You know, I was crying out to my Father. And as I was crying out to God, it was about a boy. I don't know how deep and far I want to go into this, you guys, in terms of the conversation in this moment that happened a couple months ago, because I don't know, I feel like I'm really exposing myself here, but isn't that the whole point of this? To be open, honest, transparent. Yeah, it is. Okay, I'll just do it. It wasn't about a boy, but more so of a situation that had happened. Actually, we're going to call a spade, a situationship that happened a long time ago, guys, a long time ago. And I was just more so reflecting on it, not reflecting on the guy or that I miss him. It wasn't anything like that. It was more so me realizing, looking back on that time period of my life and the things that I allowed to happen, or why I allowed myself to stay so long in that kind of situation and circumstance, was rooted in me not having enough self-respect and self-worth for myself. And was rooted in me having to face the fact that, I am a hopeless romantic. I love so much. If you I love, guys. It's so beautiful to me. I think love is such an incredible and powerful thing. And it's just so amazing. So I love, but just from my experiences throughout life, I've always kind of had this subconscious narrative running in my mind, right? Which is that I believe everyone is gonna have their happily ever after and deserves a happily ever after. But I never really believed in my own happily ever after, if that makes sense. I believe that everyone else is gonna get their Prince Charming, meet their princess, bada bing, bada boom, everything's gonna work out. But I just didn't believe that for myself. I didn't have hope for that in myself, because I just had this subconscious narrative that was well, I don't look like the girls who have happily ever afters. I'm not white, I'm not blonde hair, blue eyes, I'm not light skin, I don't have 3C hair. I wasn't skinny, I'm not skinny. I was just I'm not the societal norm, and that's okay. It just isn't for me then. Genuinely, it wasn't something that I was necessarily consciously aware that I was living out in my day-to-day life, or had resided to, or had come to accept, and basically came to this breaking point, this revelation with God, and it brought me to tears. I was crying because I was oh my gosh, I hate that for so long I had that narrative, because I am ever so deserving of a happily ever after. Please, do you see me how I live my life? I'm a princess. I deserve nothing less than a Prince Charming to come and sweep me off my feet, and I'm not going to settle for any less. And because I had that narrative before, I genuinely was settling for less. The things that I settled for, I thought that was the best it was ever going to get. I genuinely thought that is what I deserved. I was like, yeah, it's not necessarily princess level, it's not necessarily happily ever after level treatment, but it's still pretty good, I guess. I guess this is what I deserve. This seems fitting for who society tells me, what the world tells me. But it's what does my father tell me? And when I came to that realization, because the Lord has really grown me in terms of my self-worth and self-respect throughout the year. And honestly, my desires have changed, and my desires becoming more like God's desires. It made me realize that God's desire for me is better. God's desire for me is actually the best of things, not the least of things. God's desire for me is not for me to settle. God's desire is not for me to think lowly of myself, but to have an understanding of my worth and an understanding of the being He's created to me. I was made in His image. How can I accept certain things when I was made in His image? There are certain things I'm not called to accept, called to receive, things that are not deserving of me because of who my Father is and who He fashioned me to be, because of who I meant to reflect and walked out in this life. And I realized that before, because whatever the world has told me, whatever insecurities people have projected on me, whatever trauma, whatever friendship breakups, whatever boy heartbreak, whatever you want to call it that I experienced throughout life, they were just tacking on narratives and thought cycles and honestly lies. And there were things that I subconsciously started to believe. And now it's wow, God, you're bringing me to a place where I have to reconcile and I have to unlearn beliefs and ideas and thought processes that I have subconsciously subscribed to. And now I need to unsubscribe to them because they're actually in conflict to what you have said is of me, to what you have declared for me. What are the things that I have believed, that I have held on to, that I have allowed to define me and influence how I live, interact, and be in the world and in the spaces God has placed me to be in, that actually conflict with His very word? Sitting with that, guys, was hard. That was really hard. Coming to that realization, what it made me feel like, guys? It made me feel like, wow, I was limiting myself. Wow, I was unconsciously telling myself to go for less, not the best. Telling myself I don't deserve this, when I actually deserved better than what I was allowing myself to receive. And it's really hard to reconcile with that. It's really hard to have to face yourself and realize that you have not been treating yourself well. It's a lot easier to identify when other people don't treat you right. It's a lot easier to be upset with people, but it's a lot harder to realize that the person who's pained you is yourself, that you have caused yourself this pain or hurt, that in certain ways I have put myself in certain positions and predicaments that were not conducive to myself or good of myself. I didn't treat myself well because I didn't know how to, or I didn't necessarily understand my worth and my value in that way. And it was hard because I wanted to believe that I did. I wanted to believe that, no, I would never do that. I respect myself. I love myself. I just didn't want to believe that I still had some insecurities that I had to deal with. This level of vulnerability and honesty you have to have with yourself, and then getting to a point where now I have to forgive myself. Kind of referencing that situation. Again, that situationship, guys, was a long time ago, over a year ago. I promise you, it's not a lingering thing in my life, guys. I promise you. It is just good to sometimes reflect and think back to moments of your life and understand why you allowed certain things to happen. And I realized that for so long, I thought I was mad at him, and I wasn't mad at him for how things played out. Honestly, how things played out, we thank the Lord because it worked out for my good. But it was more so I was angry at myself for what I allowed myself to put up with. I was mad at me, not him. And it's oh shoot, it's not that I haven't forgiven you. I haven't forgiven myself for what I put myself through. That is a lot harder to deal with. That is a bigger giant to slay. I was just all right, God, I'm just gonna sit here in my bed and keep crying because, yeah, Like that was me. I was like, you're right, God. I'm just gonna sit here for a minute and just keep crying, because that was a hard truth. That's a hard truth to accept right now. And yes, I have such a better you're so good to me, God. And yes, I have such a better understanding of my self-worth and self-respect. I'm so much more confident and assured in the person you've called me to be. And again, all of this is building me to the point, the epiphany I recently had it these last couple days. But it had to come from me, like, forgiving myself and just realizing you didn't know any better. I'm just a girl. I didn't know any better, but now I do. So how do you move now that you know better? Wow. Yeah. Like, how do you move now that I know better? Because before I didn't. I was ignorant. Here's the thing when we are no longer ignorant, right? When we've come to a space of awareness and knowledge, there's now this responsibility for action. Like, okay, how am I going to move? How am I going to act now that I'm aware of this? And now that we have fully become aware of this and we are in knowledge of this, and we are also in knowledge of our worth and understanding. And so we are called to be set apart, to be a light of this world. Like, I am worth more than rubies. I'm worth more than rubies. Excuse me, guys. Like, I'm a king's daughter. I'm a princess. I mean, like, genuinely, and the thing is not just like coming to the acknowledgement of these things, the awareness of them, but also living them out. It's a call to action. I can't be ignorant to anymore. Listen, if I was ignorant to the fact that I was a princess this whole time, of course I'm going to be acting like a peasant. I didn't know I was a heir. I didn't know I had a claim to royalty. So of course I'm going to be living as if I'm a peasant. But now that I have this knowledge and awareness that I was actually called to be more and I have more, I need to start living as if I'm going to receive more. Guys, I'm getting fired up. I'm ready. I'm heated. Like, I feel so comfortable right now. Like, guys, it only took 3 episodes to really break me in, you know? Tuning from that point, like, once I have an understanding that I deserve more and there's actually more for me to receive, I actually need to start living as if I'm going to receive those things. I need to start having hope that better is on the other side of this. And this isn't a matter of the grass is greener, like the grass is always greener on the other side. This is a matter of not allowing yourself to settle for things that you're never called to settle for. Like, you're not called to settle. You're called to receive the best things, good things. It literally lets us know in the word that God prepared good things in advance for us to complete. Like, there are good things that have been prepared for me in advance to receive. What do I look like not receiving those good things and settling for decent? Excuse me. No. Because I was never called for that. I was just never called for that. Like, I need to stop. Like, I'm getting in my own way. And I was like, I'm not going to get in my own way. And neither am I going to allow other things, other people, other narratives, other ideas, other thoughts, other opinions to get in my way either. Because I just have a father who never called me for that. Like, what am I doing? No, guys, that's genuinely the epiphany I had. It was like, what am I doing? I am living for people, and I didn't even know it. I am conforming to the world, and I didn't even know it. What am I doing? I am trying to live up to expectations that other people have for me, standards that the world has set. And these standards or expectations are constantly changing, constantly evolving. There's no such thing as a standard when the standard is always changing. Yeah, I'm still trying to conform to it. Yeah, I'm still allowing it to define me. That don't make no sense. Shouldn't I allow my standard and expectation be rooted on something that never changes? Be rooted in something that even if heaven and earth pass away, it stands forever? Yeah. Wait, what did that be? Oh, yeah, that's called the truth, the word of God? Oh! No, literally. I was like, what am I doing? And this came on like a random, when did this epiphany come, guys? Like, I think it came a random Friday afternoon. That's when this epiphany came. And it couldn't have came at a better moment. It may have seemed random to me, but when I think back on it, guys, it was perfect timing. Perfect timing. Especially when we're gearing up for this new year, right? I've changed and evolved so much in the last year that it's crazy. Like, I genuinely am not the same person I was a year ago or 2 years ago. Crazy how much a person can change. And it really is, when the Lord says the renewing of your mind and the transformation of your heart, like, he really is doing that. Really is doing that thing. Okay. And it's like my mind is being renewed and my heart is being transformed. I cannot be the same. So how does this all circle back? How does all relate to living life unapologetically? Well, to be quite honest with you guys, I really don't know. I don't have the answers. I don't have this 10-step plan, guys. I don't have this book release on how to live your life unapologetically. Like, I don't have any of that, but I am learning it, right? I'm slowly gathering my tools in my toolbox. And with each step, more is being unraveled. Understanding is growing. Wisdom is being added unto me, right? And so I'm just going to let you guys know where I'm at right now with living life unapologetically. And what it is now isn't always what it's going to be, and it isn't always what it's going to become. But here's what it is right now. Should that be like the tagline for us, guys? Like, should that be something I say? Like, I feel like every podcast has like a, I don't know, like a saying. And I feel like this could be the saying. Like, what it is now isn't always what it's going to be, and isn't what it's going to become. Like, I feel like that's so slay. I feel like that sounds wise. I feel like that'd be something like on a home good, like cup. Or I feel like it's a home goods cup. Can be a cute little like t-shirt slay Etsy. Yeah, I'm so unserious sometimes. Okay, focus. Okay, so where am I at right now in terms of living life unapologetically? Besides making the decision to live life unapologetically, which honestly, that is the first step. Well, isn't it usually like the first step is like awareness? And so now I have this awareness of like, was living other narratives. In some ways I was conforming to things that were never called to conform to, but actually to be set apart from. And okay, now that I have this awareness, and then the next step that I made was to make this decision. I made a decision to live life unapologetically moving forward. Okay, what does that look like so that I can now take action? The action part comes from understanding that I don't want to live for an audience of 100. I want to live for an audience of 1. Like, when I minimize my audience, there's less opinions, less people I'm looking to please and satisfy and gear myself and my words and my thoughts and my actions to. And now all I need to focus on is one person. That audience of 1 for me is the Lord, not an audience of 100, because when I have so many people in a room, that is so many people in a way, like I am catering to them. I'm performing for them. I am not only pouring out to them, but they're also pouring into me. When you're performing on stage, like the reactions of the audience, like that influences you. The audience has an influence on the performance and how the performance goes out on the people. And so when I have an audience of so many people, and mind you, all these people have different opinions, ideas, expectations, beliefs, perspectives, right? I'm trying to cater to all of that variety and those differences. And that is influential to me. It's going to influence the kind of person I am on that stage, right? It's going to influence, like for performance, it will influence the kind of performer they are. It will influence the kind of interactions they have, the kind of decisions they make, right? Whether they're like, oh, the audience loves it when we have background dancers versus the audience loves it when it's just me singing by myself, like spotlight on, like it's influential on the decisions. To minimize that, to really ensure that I am not facing so many moments and periods of conflict and confliction with others and who I'm made to be and walk out in. It's essential that my audience is only the Lord. Okay, we've determined our audience. We've become aware people. We're becoming more aware. And we have identified roots of false narratives, right? And we're making our way to taking action. And action is breaking free and standing on business. Period. We stand on business over here. Let me stop. So what does it look like to stand on business? Standing on business means standing on the truth, okay? And guys, in this epiphany, I was just like, oh yeah, no, it's a wrap. I'm done. I was like, yeah, no longer allowing other people's opinions, thoughts. I'm no longer making myself small because other people feel like I'm too like, no, I'm not minimizing myself. I'm not dimming my light when God literally told me to be a light of this world. I'm not about to conform when I was very much called to be set apart. I'm okay with being different. I'm okay with being misunderstood. As long as I understood exactly who I was meant to be and how I was called to live, I don't need to do anything else differently. Okay? Like, I am not about to adapt to your projections. Ooh. Okay, go ahead, Virgin. Go up. Explain. Like, no, like I'm not about to adapt to people's projections. And again, this isn't me saying you should not care for what other people say. You really should care. You should care about what other people say. You should like take time to understand it and see where they're coming from. But it's also understanding that all of us come from different walks of life, perspectives, trauma. Like that is all like what we're bringing forth in every single relationship, situation, scenario. Like we all are living a different world because we all have a different outlook and perception and a different lived experience in the world. Like all of our lived experiences, doesn't even matter if we grew up in the same neighborhood, same backyard, even if we grew up in the same household, right? Even if you grew up as brothers and sisters, even if you grew up as twins, your perceptions and how you live life is still going to be significantly different for one another because each lived experience is uniquely different and unique to the person and individual. So not that you shouldn't seek to understand and hear people out, and not that every single norm and every single standard is necessarily bad, right? Like it's innately bad. Nothing at all. Like not like culture is innately bad. Nothing like that. Not saying anything like that. But it's honestly taking the time to put the things that you are digesting to the test and ensuring that what you're digesting is good for you. Like being able to discern, is this good for me? Is this something that's going to better me? Is this something that's making me a more healthier, better version of myself? Or is this actually something that's minimizing me, that's tearing me down, something that is not feeding me but depleting me? Like it's generally like taking the moment to discern what are the things that I have allowed to influence me and impact how I live my life that are actually negative instead of positive. What are the things that I'm allowing around me? What are the things I am consuming? Like, and it's genuinely not feeling sorry, not feeling guilty from leaving spaces, leaving relationships, removing things, entities, beliefs from your life and from your mind that are negatively impacting you and are, in fact, an obstacle to you, right? Because I used to feel guilty about that. As a former and reformed people pleaser, I felt guilty about choosing myself. I felt guilty about removing myself from situations, circumstances, or things, or saying no to things. I felt guilty about that. When it's like, no, what are you apologizing for? Jenny, what are you apologizing for? In some ways, I have apologized for God renewing my mind and transforming my heart. Why am I apologizing for the evolution of myself that is better? Why am I apologizing for the fact that I'm becoming better? It does not make sense. It does not make sense that I am apologizing because I'm no longer living to other people's insecurities, projections, opinions of me that were just unrealistic and also just not meant for me to live up to. Why am I apologizing for that? I have nothing to apologize for. Dang, I'm getting heated. I'm sorry. Why am I saying sorry? Okay, so now that I've determined my audience, right, what I'm going to allow to influence who I become and how I live, really have an impact on my decisions. And I'm not saying you should not take into consideration your loved ones and your family and your friends. You definitely should, because those people are important in your life, but just not allowing that to define you, to not conform to other people's expectations and desires of who they want you to be because it is more convenient or more comfortable for them, right? Because the same way that we can be obstacles to ourselves, others can also be obstacles to us, right? And it's just ensuring that that isn't the case. So then after kind of like deciding what's my audience, I had to start identifying the root of false narratives. Like I couldn't identify the symptoms of them because symptoms are just that, right? Yes, you have a stuffy nose, but the reason you have a stuffy nose is because you actually have a sinus infection. Like I need to treat your sinus infection, not give you a bunch of tissue boxes for your stuffy nose. Like it's a symptom. It's not the root. So I need to get down to the root, because if I get rid of the root cause, I also get rid of the symptoms along with it. And so it's like I need to identify the root of the false narratives of my life. And this definitely took going through some pivotal points in my life where I was like, okay, where, like it took me like kind of, you know how they say we have thought cycles and thought patterns that go through our mind, right? It took me having to kind of go to the beginning of a specific thought cycle. Let's say it was a thought cycle in regards to like my body, right? Something in relation to body image. I would have to like go to the root and beginning and be like, okay, when did the idea or perception of my body start being something that I became really aware of, hyperfixated on, and felt like there was a certain standard that my body had to live up to in order to be deemed acceptable. I can draw that back from like 3rd grade when I was being bullied for my size. Because honestly, and I tell my friends this a lot, and again, this is me really being really vulnerable and open, because like I don't really like to talk about weight and like body image a lot, just because it's so like deeply entrenched in my drama. Like, if to just be fully honest, so deeply entrenched in a lot of like traumatic moments in my life for me, and it's still something that I'm in my adulthood is still having to unlearn and grow in, and learn to be comfortable with like my body. And I definitely would love to get to a point where we can have a whole episode discussing that, which the goal is to, because it's just really important. But not to get ahead of myself, like I was like bullied, right? And there was just, like, seeing things on TV, and like I know I'm not necessarily like a millennial or anything, like I am Gen Z, whatever. But I did grow up with sisters who were a lot older than me, and so seeing things like if you guys know Twiggy, the model, like, oh my gosh, like having to be literally she was called Twiggy because she was stick skinny, like just like the Paris Hilton of the time during the early 2000s, when everyone had like washboard abs that were super flat stomachs, like that whole time period, that whole era, like that made me feel like Destiny's Child, like them when they pull on their red carpet outfits, which by the way, they looked amazing in them. Like that time period, like Bring It On, oh my gosh. Sorry guys, I'm just now thinking about how good and iconic that era was. Like, I love those movies. Anyway, but those, like, again, that influenced how I saw myself, and like, I think I was being bullied for, and people would point out, and people would use to actually, like, people would bring up my weight as a way to tear me down and not uplift me. And that made me aware of my body. Like, I was so young, I was like 7, but I was already like, oh my gosh, I already was like, based on how people were treating me or how people would talk to me or use that to talk down on me, like it made me feel like there was something wrong with my body. And that was just like a subconscious thing that I'm taking in as a child, and then that follows me into my adulthood. And it was just so formative for me because it was like multiple and several encounters in series throughout my lifetime. And if you're African like me, African aunties who would be like, oh, you're gaining weight, or you're losing weight, and we understand it's a cultural thing. Doesn't make it okay, but it's a cultural thing, right? Just them nitpicking on what you eat and how you look. Like, those things all like form this thought cycle and pattern in my mind, where before I didn't have it at all. I'm like 6. All I care about is like some Max and Ruby and the Backyardigans. Like, I don't care about, like, what do you mean size, skinny, curvy? What? Like, I haven't even hit puberty yet. Like, are you kidding me? That so early on, it was tacked onto my brain. So immediately I just constantly felt like my body was so criticized and used as something to like tear me down, or something that made me feel guilty in some ways. Like, I just grew up constantly feel like my body's never enough, and it's not meeting the standard, so it's not good enough, it's not acceptable. And this is a thought pattern, this is a thought cycle that came to influence my relationship with food, my relationship with exercise, like my relationship with how I perceive myself, like and clothing, like so many different facets of my life. And it stems from nothing God tells me, nothing the word of the Lord told me. I can't bring up the Bible verse for you guys. I can't, because it don't exist. Like, yes, our bodies are temples, the spirit dwells within it, and we should take care of it. But in terms of like, when I look back on those periods of my life, I was actually like so fine. I was actually just a kid. Like, okay, I was a little chubby. Actually, no, I was more than chubby. I was like, but who cares? Like, when I look back on my high school days, I'm like, sometimes I like wanna like wish I could hug high school me, because like you were actually so small, and the way you thought that you were like ginormous is actually frightening. And I hate that was just something that you constantly criticize yourself with, and we're so hyperfixated on, when there's so many other things that you could have just thought about and worried about and cared for. Because this is just so, like, it doesn't define you. It's so insignificant, yet because of those ideals and those narratives that I clung to, it became so significant for me. And it was so significant that it influenced so many other facets of my life that I'm now having to like do the unlearning of and bettering my relationship with food, bettering my relationship with exercise. And it's like, what? All of that spun out of control due to a false narrative or a societal norm or just an unrealistic body standard that goes on to impact me for 10 plus decades of my life. It's still impacting me now. Like, what? When you guys really think of it like that, you're like, what in the world? Huh? Excuse me? What? Oh, no. Me making those animalistic sounds right now was so Nigerian of me. Like, I cannot. I'm so dramatic, bro. I'm so dramatic. That's honestly true, guys. In terms of like my body image and things like that and insecurities, that's just one of the many narratives. And honestly, I feel like I probably haven't even identified half of the narratives, and it's something I'm constantly going to have to like situation, circumstances of life is going to make me like realize, oh, this is a narrative that I have unconsciously subscribed to that I need to unsubscribe to. And it's honestly, like it says in Romans 12:2, like literally like putting all these narratives to the test and seeing if they approve with God's will and seeing they're good and pleasing and perfect with his will. Like genuinely putting it to the test. Like put the narrative, whatever thought cycle, whatever think pattern, whatever norm, whatever narrative that you have subscribed to, that you have held as a strong belief, I want you to test it to the word, to the truth. Like, I genuinely want you to test it and see if it holds any type of validity. Like, is it actually valid? And if it's not valid, then why are you living by it? And I know I'm coming off really strong here, guys, but it's genuinely because I'm passionate about this. Like I said from the beginning, guys, like this epiphany, I genuinely believe will change my life. Like as dramatic as it's not, it genuinely will change my life. And I'm so passionate about it because I also believe it can change other people's lives. It could really do something to shape and transform how someone looks at themselves. And maybe it's okay sometimes to take a moment to second guess if this is actually the right thing for you. Like, can we normalize it's actually okay for a moment to want to think it through a little bit? Don't overthink it, but do think it through. Like, I'm just passionate about it. And on that note of being passionate, and as this episode is coming to an end, I just want to go through some practical steps with you guys. Okay, we identify our audience, which is an audience for one, the Lord. You know, we have become aware and we're no longer living in ignorance. But the more aware that we are, right, we have to take a moment and a stand to now take action, right? And how are we taking action? We are identifying roots of false narratives from our lives. And not only are we identifying these roots, but we are uprooting that, right? Let's uproot all the weeds in our lives so that we can make room and space for seeds to grow in our lives. And then we are standing on truth, right? We are no longer allowing societal norms, projections, or insecurities to define who we are or tell us who we are or what we can and cannot do or who we can and cannot become. And remembering that the person who defines me is the I am that I am. Like, who does the I am that I am say that I am? And try to say that 10 times fast. That is definitely giving tongue twister. But generally, who does the Lord say that I am? That's what I should be living by, not what the world says I am, not even what I say I am. Because honestly, I don't even know myself fully. Or I don't even know to what extent that I'm capable of. Like sometimes we surprise ourselves of what we're able to do and how far we can go, our limits. Like genuinely, like I even surprise myself sometimes. So it's really allowing the one who is unsurprised, the one who knows all things, beginning and the end, middle and all the things, to define me, to let me know, because I'm made to be great. Like, you are made to be great. You get that? We were not made to be like nothing. Like, we were actually made to be great. And, you know, of course, guys, we gotta, like, if you don't believe me, like I said, we are standing on truth, some biblical foundation for us, which is Psalm 139, verse 14. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Period. Shout out to my mom who would tell me this all the time. I would ask her. And I remember when I was younger, when I would ask my mom, am I beautiful? And she'd be like, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And I would be like, but am I beautiful? Like back then I felt like I was like, girl, okay, thank you for the scripture, but like, am I beautiful or not? Like, I feel like that was me back then, but like now that I'm older and a little bit wiser, I'm so grateful that my mother's response to me to that was truth. Like, I love that my mother's response to that question for me was truth. Like, I was like, am I beautiful? And she said, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Like, her response to me was truth. It wasn't her opinion. It wasn't what the world or society was said. It was exactly what our Father has said I was, which is wonderfully and fearfully made. I love my mother so much. Shout out to you, Mom. That was so good. Because in that moment, me as a little girl, didn't even realize that, but now that I'm older, my mom was speaking truth into me. And she was telling me, she was letting me know that's what should determine how I see myself. That's what I should let my standard be. And then another biblical scripture for us guys. Okay, because I read my word through, which is Galatians 1 verse 10, is something that we should all be thinking about in regards to when we're asking ourselves, living for God and not for others, which is Galatians 1 verse 10, which states, am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Like, genuinely, is how I'm living, is what I'm doing, rooted in the approval of man or approval of God? And tying right back to living for an audience of one instead of an audience of 100. Then here's some practical steps, guys. I really did try to create an outline for this, guys. Like, I really try to be as organized as possible. I really want this to be helpful. I want this to be beneficial, guys. Help me help myself, so that I can help myself, so I can help you. Like, I can't help no one if I can't help myself. So help me so I can help you. And so some practical steps that me and ChatGPT came up with is one, like we talked about, I feel like we kind of hit home with this and might have already beat the dead horse, but recognizing false narratives, right? Testing the validity of these narratives, right, to the truth, and then replacing those false narratives, those lies, because that's what they are, lies, with God's truth through scripture, right? And then living unapologetically by embracing who God created you to be. Embrace it. Embrace being different. Embrace being the light of the world. Embrace being set apart. Embrace the fact that your thoughts are not like others, that the words that you speak are not like others. Embrace the fact that people notice that there's something different about you, because that difference about you is actually pointing to the one who created you. Embrace it. It is a beautiful thing. You are destined for greatness. You're destined to walk out in such a great and higher purpose in life. Do not allow yourself to miss out on the great purpose God prepared for you and the good things that He prepared for us to fulfill by settling for the things that are beneath you. And on that note, guys, thank you so much for joining me in this episode. And I genuinely hope that it has empowered you and it has encouraged you to live unapologetically. And I want all of us today who's listening to this and who's going to listen to this to literally make a decision today to stop apologizing for the person who God is creating you to be. Stop apologizing for the person that you were called to walk into. Stop apologizing for living out your purpose. Stop apologizing for being a better version of yourself, for evolving and changing and seeking better things. Don't apologize anymore for wanting the best, because there is best for you to receive. Like, genuinely, God tells us that there's better days ahead of us. You have better out there. Don't settle for less. If you take one thing away from this, do not settle for less and live out unapologetically the life that God has called you to live. All right, guys, that was another episode of the Still Learning podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I surely hope that episode really blessed you and that it changed your life. Like, I genuinely believe it has changed mine, and encourages you to go out there in the world and live your life unapologetically. I hope that it truly resonated with you. And if it did, please go ahead and share this with your loved ones, with your dog, with your cat, with strangers, with your colleague, with the person next to you on the train, just with anyone who has ears to hear, right? And so please let me know what you guys thought of this. Please make sure to rate it. Make sure to keep on listening. And I hope to see you guys again next week for another episode of the Still Learning podcast. Bye.